I resigned during a meeting with a huge client, by user Bagfanzak. TLDR, got denied raises a few years, resigned during a meeting with one of the biggest client. Client pulled contracts after a year. Some years ago I worked at a digital agency who was actually a big player in the national scene. It was me who was responsible for maintenance and availability for some software used by our core clients, and I ran the team who did the same for other clients. Year after year I got denied raises or got a pay raise that's just laughable. Asked so many times for a partner or sidekick as I was drowning I work, but they didn't feel the need as I was still able to keep it running while I was simultaneously running myself into the ground. Here comes the 6-month performance review, and yet again I voiced my concerns about my well-being and financial situation, and yet again I was denied anything. Unbeknownst to them I was offered a position at a competitor granting me better pay and better workloads. After the performance review we had an in-person meeting with the second biggest client for contract renewals, and as I was responsible for maintenance I was also included as to give input on SLA conditions and pricing. During that meeting I was rereading the offer which my manager saw, mailed the competitor. I accepted their offer, got the contract in my email within 5 minutes and digitally signed it within 10. Mailed HR, my manager, and some execs my resignation. Fun fact is that all the execs I mailed were also in the meeting. Didn't turn long for faces becoming red with anger, and they paused the meeting. Got pulled apart and got questioned what the fuck I'm doing, explained my side of the story and was met with utter disbelief. My manager and HR got chewed out. I got better pay and better working conditions at the competitor. Client renewed their contracts that year but left the year after because of inadequate maintenance and the company not being able to meet the 99.999% uptime SLA. Career is popping off. My old employer is downscaling business because of a harsh market. I purposely spoiled the end of a 14-book novel series because of rudeness, by user Dabuffer. I was in a fantasy book subreddit and said name of a supporting character in a post. I revealed nothing about this character except their name. Some rando told me I spoiled because now he knows the name of a future character. There are 2,000 named characters in this 14-book series. And I told him that I spoiled nothing with my post. He began berating me and calling me names, insulting my intelligence, so I spoiled the ending of the series. Since he doesn't know the name I leaked, he is obvious low not even to the middle of the series. I sent him a DM so I didn't break the subs rules and spoiled the whole thing. Told him who dies, how and why. How the big bad was defeated. What happened after the climax and a few fan theories about the world after the story. I ruined months of reading for him. And I don't feel bad at all. He said soon a few too many times, so I went nuclear, by user Sisk. Back in the early 2000s I worked for an Eastern Canadian telecom company that merged with a Western Canadian telecom company. I am hoping the old area manager sees this. In December of that year corporate announced they were giving service reps a raise of up to $3.50. It was being given because they feared Eastern employees would join the union in the West. The raises would be administered by the area managers starting in January. Our area manager had 7 or 8 stores, so I assumed it would take a month or two to roll them out. In February I started asking the area manager about the raise and he always said soon. I asked him 5 or 6 times between February and May. Eventually I realized he was delaying as long as possible to pump up his quarterly bonuses. In early May I wrote a strongly worded 4-page letter and saved it for the right moment. The right moment arrived on the Friday of the May long weekend. That morning the area manager came in and, as always, I asked about the raise. He said it would come soon. Thankfully this man liked boasting about his Muskoka cottage and I used it to my advantage. He mentioned he would be leaving for the cottage around noon. I asked how long the drive was. He said they planned to arrive around 3 in the afternoon. Here is where the magic happens. At 4 p.m. I opened my work email and sent my 4-page letter about how we employees were being screwed by the area manager and why a union was becoming the only option to the direct email of the president and CEO. Saturday morning I got to work at 7 a.m. My goal was to ruin his weekend by having the CEO tear him a new one. Instead he was forced to drive back to Toronto from Muskoka to apologize to me and to inform me that everyone in the area would get their raise retroactive to January 1st and that everyone from my location was getting the maximum raise. I got much more revenge than I could have imagined. We spoke outside in the parking lot and I could see in his face he wanted me dead, but he had lost. He told me I ruined the weekend for him and he would have appreciated if I had spoken to him first. I told him I would be glad to forward him the email I wrote to the CEO, which documents all dates and times when I did speak to him, and he blew me off. I told him he was stealing from me by delaying my raise. So I think it's fair that he had lost his bonus and his weekend sucked. At that point I decided I owned the meeting and ended it on my terms. I said there was nothing more to discuss and that I was going into the store. I gave him the nastiest goodbye. I told him to have a great drive to Muskoka, I hear it is quite scenic, and walked away. I was not worried about retribution as I was planning to leave in 6 to 8 months as I was commencing my career. I got numerous calls from workers in other locations thanking me, and I made sure to share the full story as no one told me to say nothing. Edit addition to story. On a side note, before I did any of this I had called stores in other areas and found out they had their raises between February and early March. Wanna hand my number out to your perverted friends? That's fine. I'll get you back tenfold, baby. Winking face, by user definitely not Miranda. This happened a few years back, and although it's petty, I still can't help but get overwhelmed with maniacal glee every time I think about it. Mwahaha. So I was dating this guy. A typical douchebag, really. No job, no ambition, still lived at home with his parents, etc. You know the type. Thankfully, we only dated for a couple months and I realized he had zero will to change and dumped him like a hot rock. Anyway, long story short, he did not take the breakup very well. I was sitting at home, minding my own business, binging on Netflix when suddenly my phone rang. I usually don't answer numbers I don't recognize, but something told me to answer that time. When I picked up, there was a man's voice on the other end of the line. He asked if it was me and I was like, that depends. Who is this? Him. I know this is gonna sound really weird, but, my ex's name, gave me your number. He said you'd be down for a good time. I asked him 3 or 4 times if he was sure because I honestly thought it was too good to be true, you know? But he swore up and down that you would be cool with it. He said you'd do it for $100? Is that okay? I was stunned. I couldn't believe that asshole had the audacity to give my number out. But I think I was more blown away by the fact that this other asshole actually had the nerve to call me and offer me money to sleep with him. Needless to say, I told the dude on the phone to fuck off and hung up. In a blind rage, I thought about calling my ex and going the fuck off on him. But I knew that would do absolutely no good, and he would only find enjoyment in seeing me so pissed off. So instead, I did my best to brush it off and told myself it wouldn't happen again. Well, I was wrong. I had another man call me the next night. This guy sounded like he was at least 100 years old. And my POSX had apparently dropped my going rate down to $50 this time. Again, I was fucking livid. But instead of doing nothing, I immediately went into petty revenge mode. Now, just so you guys know, I am fully aware that my actions were immature and possibly even borderline illegal. But you have to understand. I was humiliated and absolutely irate. So, I went onto Tinder and created a profile with my ex's picture on it. In the bio section, I wrote, "Nice man seeking a woman to spoil and pamper. No strings attached. I've got money to spare and loads of it. If you're looking for help financially, hit me up." Then I ever so kindly added his phone number and a link to his Facebook account. Within a matter of hours, I had a whole slew of messages coming into the account. I ignored them, figuring they would get the hint and move to his phone or Facebook. I guess I wasn't wrong because about a week later, I called his phone from an unknown number and his number had been changed. His Facebook account had been deleted. LMAO. Was it wrong of me? Absolutely. Do I feel guilty? Fuck no. Edit, as another Redditer pointed out, having a bunch of women blow his phone up doesn't really sound like revenge. But hear me out. Y'all would really just have to know this guy. When I say he was a douchebag, I mean that with all my heart and soul. He was one of those guys whose pride and ego were absolutely through the roof, even though there was literally no reason for it at all. So the fact that all these pretty women were blowing his phone up just to ask him for money he didn't have, only for them to probably be pissed off and hang up on him as soon as he said he didn't have any. God. I know that crushed his soul. LOL. He obviously wasn't digging the attention or he wouldn't have deleted his Facebook and changed his number. Ha ha ha. A lot of you have mentioned Grindr and how much better of an idea that would have been. You're right. Trust me. I'd give anything to have thought of that back then. LOL. Enjoy your new refrigerator, by Usersvno. I recently bought a new refrigerator. At the time of purchase, I told them I needed the new fridge delivered and the old fridge removed. They said no problem and charged me an extra fee for that. When I called the day before delivery to confirm the details, I am told for the first time that removal of the old fridge isn't included but that the driver would still remove it for $20 cash. I'm irked, but whatever, it's just an extra 20. The driver arrives with the new fridge and tells me my doorway isn't big enough and that my door will have to be taken off the hinges and that costs an extra $40 cash. But wait, that's not all, the doors to the new and old fridge also needed to be detached and then reattached to allow the move in and out. And this costs an extra $20 cash. I'm aggravated but feeling like I'm over a barrel, so we proceed. While he's working, the delivery guy starts asking me questions about the old fridge. Is it broken? No, runs fine. Then why are you replacing it? I just renovated the kitchen and am getting stainless to match. He finishes the job and leaves. The next day I get a call from the driver asking me where are the drawers and door inserts for my old fridge. You see, it turns out he wanted to keep my old fridge and use it himself. I started to suspect this when he was asking questions about the old fridge before. So when he stepped outside, I quickly pulled out all 3 crisper drawers and every shelf that sits inside the fridge door. I hid them all in a back bedroom and he never noticed. He was aggravated and wanted to come back for the drawers and shelves. Told him that would cost an extra $40 for the drawers and $20 for the shelves. Just kidding, I said, I'm using them in my cabinet doors and for storage under sinks and in the basement, so I would be keeping those. But enjoy the fridge.